fellow dorks? It is the Turtle Dork. We are back with a new recap and review for Game of Thrones Season 2, Episode 6. The name of this episode is...
The Old Gods and the New Gods.
Directed by...
Yes.
David Nutter. I'm the Turtle Dork, Disco Dork here.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and get into this. The opening scene. All right, there's a lot to dissect and to break down. Theon, basically, he comes back to Winterfell.
I do want to, before we jump into that, I do want to say, you do have to do that first.
Yeah, I do. The last episode, I made a slight mistake as far as like Marjorie. She didn't go to marry Joffrey. It was actually Tommen, which happens later on when I refer to her as far as wanting to be queen. So anybody in the comments, I just want to make that correction if you watch this from the last episode. So yeah, she marries Tommen, not Joffrey. Let's continue.
All right. So one thing I did want to talk about in regards to this opening sequence that also has something to do with earlier in this series, but also later
from previous episode.
Well, I just wanted to mention that when this episode opens, the Meister, Bran's Meister, is we're at Winterfell, like you said, and he's scrambling to hurry up and write a letter and get it to a Raven and get it sent out. Because, like you mentioned, Theon has come to claim Winterfell.
He's come back home, reunion,
and he tells Bran, I've had men siege the castle, grappling hooks to come over the walls, but you don't see any of that stuff. And that's something that happens a few times earlier in the entire series, is where a lot of battles happen off screen.
Yeah.
And not even saying this was a battle, but even like something like this, they didn't even film or show that. And it's my opinion, it speaks to the fact that when, at this point in the series, Game of Thrones had a huge, decent following, but I don't even think it had not become as big as it is now.
Especially about the second season.
HBO, I think, was being really tight with the budget.
True.
But once they saw how huge the show had become and how many new subscribers HBO was getting just off the strength of the show, they was like, all right, well, we getting more subscribers, let's pump some more money into the budget for these episodes, because later on, like, we see how much time and money and effort they're putting into battles and stuff like that. On top of but everything else, the production value is already top notch, but
it looks really good even by the second season. But you are right when it goes to that early in the show, especially in the first season. As the seasons go along, you can definitely see the production value that's put into the show. You can definitely see that on screen. Especially once you hear that they started spending like $3 to $4 million per episode. As we get into like seasons 4, 5, and some of these massive battles.
It's just funny to go back and rewatch. Like after being spoiled with like stuff like the Battle of the Bastards, or even that one in season 4 that you talked about.
That happened at the wall.
The wall. Like, we're spoiled now because we get those battles, but there was a time when a lot of shit would just happen off camera.
You would have to build up, because we haven't gotten to it yet for season 2, but the Battle of Blackwater is the big epic battle, but that's the only one we get in this season, where I think in later seasons you have, even if there's smaller battles, they're kind of peppered throughout the show, but even regardless of that, you could definitely see the production value of the show as we get further along.
Because we haven't seen Robb in any skirmishes.
No.
But this entire season, he's at war.
Exactly.
So I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, not bad.
No. Let's get
into it, man. Theon comes homecoming.
Yeah, man. Theon's homecoming. This was something that we kind of dread, especially seeing where this was kind of heading, knowing that he wanted to get back into good favor with his father, Balon. So he comes back to take Winterfell over and demands that Bran yields Winterfell over to Prince Theon. So there's an interesting conversation with them before we get out into the courtyard of Winterfell, between Theon and Bran. in the in his room, and that and throughout the rest of this sequence, I paid a lot of attention to Theon because you can definitely see how he's being influenced and the confliction that he has with the decisions that he ultimately has to make in this sequence.
He genuinely is put into, between a rock and a hard place, so to speak. I mean, fans can easily say, well, he didn't have to do that. He didn't have to chop, who was my man? He chopped his head off in the courtyard.
Sir Roderick.
He didn't have to chop Sir Roderick's head off. He didn't have to take Winterfell. But you got to think about, and that's the interesting thing, because in the courtyard, when they're telling him, like, how dare you come here? Like, the Starks raised you. These are your people. And Theon's like, no, these are not my people. Like, Theon's not wrong in anything he's saying. Like, as far as what he's doing, he might have some questionable actions and make some questionable choices. Yeah. But his reasoning, he's not wrong. Like, I think, and then watching it this evening, that was the thing that was in the forefront of my mind in those scenes with Theon, is like, when he was cutting that dude's head off, it's like, damn, that's messed up that he's doing that, and it's almost like a point of no return at this point. But at the same time, I feel for Theon because he was put in that situation to even have to choose,
to have to make that choice, and the fact that he was taken as a young boy, that now that he is a man, I don't think he knows how to navigate these type of situations to make those type of choices. And the fact that he's being influenced, because you see him with, I believe that was his first mate from his ship, who tells him when Roderick spits on him, he's like, look, you can't let that pass. Like, that's basically punishable by death. But knowing the relationship that he has at Winterfell with those people, how that's a difficult decision for him to make. But ultimately, he is a Greyjoy, and he wants that respect from his father. Yeah. And so it's just so many different layers to his character, and you see that. I think that's encapsulated in this whole scene, in this sequence. So I thought that was just magnificently done.
Oh, and Bran asked him as he's walking out, "Did you hate us the whole time?"
Yeah.
And Theon doesn't reply and respond to him. And do you take that? I don't. But do you take Theon his non-response as a affirmation? Like, yes, I did hate y'all the whole time, or do you feel like it was, again, like this confliction, like, no, I didn't hate y'all the whole time, and I still don't hate you right now.
That's why that's the way I take it. Because really, I go back to the scene a couple episodes ago with Balon, where he tells his father, he was like, look, you gave me away, like, as a truce to the Starks. He was like, I was a boy, and it's like, I was your last boy, and you gave me away. So the Starks basically have it's not like he was taken from his land. His father gave him away. And so, there's so much to it, but I think because he was raised by the Starks, who are good people, who are noble men, I think he does have a love for his brothers. I really do, and I think that was a difficult thing for Theon.
I never thought about that till you just said that, the fact that he was raised by the Starks. I never considered it for whatever reason, but whatever trajectory Theon seems to be on now, as far as him doing right and trying to make things right, or trying to help Sansa, all of the good that's in Theon, and even when we're going to see later in this season where he doesn't actually kill, he doesn't actually skin that, it's the kid at Winterfell, right? Whoa, he lies.
He lies about it.
He lies about it. So I say all that to say, I never thought about the fact that all the good that's in Theon and what's happening later in season 7 as well, and throughout the series, came from his upbringing of the Starks. Like, had he not been taken by them, obviously his life would have been different, but he would have been a different person character-wise. And I don't mean TV character, I mean the content of his character would have been different, because he was raised by a noble person, by Ned Stark, as opposed to his asshole father. So I don't know, like, I think it's never thought about that for whatever reason.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
One of the, and this is one that we kept talking about. We may have talked about this off camera, but I knew I was waiting for this scene was Tywin and when Baelish comes.
You was balled up in a little knot over there,
because
man.
You know, even though I've seen the show, but like when I get into a show that I've seen before, even rewatching previous episodes, I get so invested into the moment. Yeah, because they're so well directed and so well acted, like I just get into that moment. And the fact when Baelish comes in,
I mean, you gotta think about the
Arya,
stakes at that point.
Exactly, because if she gets found out by Baelish, because Tywin doesn't know who Arya is,
right.
but Baelish knows who Arya is. Mm-hmm. So once the guard comes in and announces that Baelish is here, and Arya hears his name, she's like,
she gets stoned.
I know, she's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And the way that scene is played, and I like how that scene works twofold, because we're with I think emotionally and with the tension we're with Arya, but also there's something else happening with Tywin, the conversation between Tywin and Baelish, him coming from the Renleys and talking about the Tyrells and the family, the Tyrell family, and how they're third in line behind the Starks and the Lannisters.
Basically he's trying to talk Tywin into putting their beef aside until they deal with the Starks.
Exactly. So there's two things happening simultaneously in this scene, all while Arya is trying to hide her identity away from Baelish, which plays so brilliantly in this scene. I think there was a moment too prior to Baelish coming in where Tywin and Arya have an exchange. That's right, because he is talking to one of his soldiers about who couldn't read, and I guess he sent the wrong letter. He sent the letter to the Starks, which I think was supposed to go somewhere else, which gave them some intel, I guess, as far as like what's going on with the war. So he lays into him, and then he asked Arya, can she read or something like that. But what's interesting also about that, prior to Baelish coming in, is just, I don't know, I like the development of the relationship between Tywin and Arya, even though he doesn't know who she is and she knows who Tywin is. There is still this type of respect, and I don't know, there's something about their relationship that I really enjoy watching. It's almost like, it's hard to describe. It's like she knows who he is, but she also has this kind of respect, even though she's kind of playing the role. But I don't know, I just like those exchanges between the two of them.
I just think that it's a testament to the show and the writers of the show, of these characters, and how complex they make these characters. Because on one hand, you have Arya in the room in the service of Tywin Lannister. Like this is Tywin Lannister. Like, he's not a good guy, right? He's the father of Cersei, Jaime Lannister. He's he's a bad guy, right? But at the same time, like, the show doesn't just portray him as a one-note bad guy.
Definitely not.
You can easily find yourself getting lost into his charm, into his interactions with Arya, and then you having to remind yourself, oh yeah, this is Tywin. Let me start liking this dude like that. But that's the wonderful thing about the show, because the same could be said for Jaime, Cersei,
and we're going to see that, like how we start to really have our own alliances, and with characters that we assume were bad in the beginning, but as we start to really interact with them and learn a little bit more about them, we actually start to kind of root for them, and we start to kind of like them. It's like,
well, because they also change.
They change throughout the course of the
Theon.
show.
This first two seasons, you can be like, man, I don't like Theon. He's an asshole.
Exactly.
But then, and he does some heinous stuff, but because of the show and his character arc, and later on, I find myself sympathizing with him, and rooting for him, and wanting him to turn his shit around.
Exactly. A little bit about Jon Snow when he meets his boo-boo for the first time, Ygritte. So they ambush a couple of wild. So the crows, Corin, I think that's his name, Corin. they see a couple wildlings, so they ambush them, and we come to find out that one of the wildlings is a woman, Ygritte, who we know that Jon Snow ultimately has a romantic relationship later in the show. Spoiler alert. But I thought that was a really, really interesting scene because they tell him to go ahead and kill her, and he can't do it, and she kind of calls his bluff on it, and so there's a little chase, and he ends up catching her again, and he still doesn't kill her. So now he's away from his other comrades, the other crows, and so he's got her wrapped up, and now he's taking her somewhere. But I just thought that was a really, really cool scene to really introduce Ygritte into the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, you know what? I had forgotten because again, I haven't seen this season since it originally aired, like especially the stuff with Ygritte. But I just had forgotten like how much of a presence her character is. Just about the way she's written. She's fearless. You know what I'm saying? Like when they capture her, she tells the guy asks her, if you're wildlings, if you all were to catch me, would you torture me or would you take me as prisoner?
Yeah.
She said, well, if they were feeling kind, they'd rip your head off your shoulders. Like she's talking to this, and they got her like they got her dead to rights.
Exactly.
And she's still like popping shit. And even when when she's like, all right, just do it, just get it over with. He's about to cut her head off. She's still ready for it. And I don't know. I find that endearing. I like that.
Yeah. This is another scene that we really kind of have to tackle, just like that opening scene. I called it when the peasants, when they go through King's Landing, when the Lannisters walk through King's Landing.
Oh, and Joffrey get hit with some shit?
Yeah, some shit in the face. So I said when the peasants of King's Landing, the common men of King's Landing attack the Lannisters, and
that shit got crazy.
Yeah, that shit got...
I don't remember that scene at all.
Well, I do, because I remember the scene specifically when the Hound saved Sansa.
Okay, but I'm talking about when the peasants were ripping people's arms off and shit. Like that shit.
Shit, I don't remember any of that. I was like, they had to have some type of weapons or something sharp to... Because you can't rip somebody... Maybe you can. Shit,
you know how hard that is? Dislocating the bone, yeah, but to tear the flesh?
That's what I'm saying. They had to have had like some type of like razor stones or something that they was...
That shit was rough, man.
Yeah, that was wild though. But because you see as they're walking through King's Landing, like people are starting to whisper and snicker. They're calling the king a bastard because these rumors about, who his father is and his mother and his uncle, but everything going on with them. So you start to hear those whispers as they're walking through, and just
boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
But you know what? I like that scene though, because even in spite of that scene is like Joffrey creates a mess, and everyone around him either has to deal with it, suffer from it, or clean it up. Right?
Exactly.
And I'm not even talking about just the scene. I just mean period.
Exactly.
But in this scene, you see it happening. Like you see Tyrion, like, all right, where's Sansa? Go get her. And he's trying to talk sense into Joffrey. He's like, let her die. He's like, no, if she dies, then we have no bargaining because your uncle's still being held captive by Robb Stark. Then you also see the Hound, taking action when he goes to rescue Sansa.
Save Sansa.
And that scene, goddamn, he cut that dude's guts came out, man.
Yeah,
I don't even remember that either, but it was a nice, surprise.
Yeah, that was good.
Well, he shouldn't be raping people. That's what that should happen to anybody who tries to rape somebody. The Hound should come get you, hold you up by your throat, do something, and make your guts fall out.
But yeah, I thought that was just a really, really well executed scene because of the chaos involved in all of that, from the way that it starts to how it ends. But you're right about Joffrey, and I think this scene really represents the chaos that he evokes and that he starts, and how everybody around him has to pick up the pieces. But so let's go to Danny. Her negotiations with the Spice King, trying to get his ships
On the stairs?
Yeah,
Oh,
so that
no
they
goddamn negotiations. That shit was out fast. First of all, this motherfucker come down the stairs. He's late. She's mad.
I know.
They waiting. She's standing down there talking to what's homeboy name?
Zorro.
She's standing there talking to Zorro.
Yeah.
Waiting on dude. Then he come down the stairs like an hour late, talking about I couldn't go this. I was late because I had some terrible dreams. She's like, I don't want to hear all that shit, man. We're talking about these boats. And then it basically becomes a repeat of
what happened outside
situation at the gates.
At the gates, yeah. It's intriguing because going to your point about Danny and where she is as far as like being at the bottom and who her father is, and she was trying to tell the Spice King like, look, I had a dream that I had these eggs, that I would walk into this fire and that these eggs would hatch and I would come out unburnt. And he was like, look, I get that, but I can't negotiate based on promises. Yeah. And he
said passion. He's like, I like your passion. I admire your passion, but I don't do business based on promise. Because he's a businessman.
Exactly.
And you do have this person coming up to you telling you some mythical shit like this, that you have in your lifetime, you haven't been privy to anything like this.
Exactly, and he can't invest into that.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was interesting. But again, Danny also trying to stay, because she even says it, like everyone treats her like a girl. Everyone treats her like this little girl. Yeah. And it's like at every point it feels like she has to prove herself. And you could see how that's kind of rubbing off on her, because every time somebody rejects her or discounts her, like she just starts to just like, look, y'all keep doing this shit, I'm gonna burn this motherfucker down.
Yeah.
So I think later on she's gonna learn a little bit more finesse. Hopefully.
Is she though? Because in the last season she burned homeboy in the field. She burned what's his name's father in front of him.
Yeah, she did. She
finessed the shit out of that.
She did. Filleted them. Rob. Wait, no. What I have? Danny and Spike. Okay, Arya and Tywin win second. The second name. That's right.
So it starts out. They're upstairs. They're in his chambers because they had that conversation about her father. Like, who's your father? How did you?
Who's your father? Yeah. How did you learn how to read? Because she sees the letter on the table that has Robb Stark's name on it, and then Tywin comes up behind her. So again, a bit of ingenuity by Arya. We talk a lot about Sansa, the Stark.
She's finessing motherfuckers this whole episode. Like ever since she left King's Landing, basically.
Pretty much.
But anyway, in this scene, yes. So the scene ends though. With her taking that letter, she steals the letter and then she leaves. But as she's walking through like one of the courtyards or whatever, she bumps into that guard.
She runs.
The guard says, "Where you going?" She tries to dupe him real quick. He snatches the letter from her, and he's like, "Yo, come on, come back here." And then so she runs to find
Jaqen.
Yeah.
And I love that exchange, because right now you racing against the clock.
Yeah.
Because this dude is like, "Oh, you so sure about that? I'm taking this letter to Tywin." Yeah. And she's like, "Oh shit." And she's looking for Jaqen and she can't find him. She finally finds him. She's like, "Look, I need you, that second name, I need you to." She was like, "I just can't do this whenever you request. Like, it has to happen when it's supposed to happen." Yeah. He's like, "No." It's like, "Look, I mean."
She like, "No, this shit supposed to happen right now."
So the dude gets to Tywin's door, knocks on the door, comes through.
And he didn't come through. He falls through, because when the door opens,
well, yeah. You see him right there, and you don't know. It looks like everything is fine, and then he falls over, and then you see there's a dart in his neck, and so that shit happened instantaneously. Like,
that shit was funny because of. But it works though.
Yeah,
I mean,
does.
I could see how somebody, if someone had an issue with that, says it feels out of place or whatever, I can understand that. But for me, I think it works. But it's the last episode, maybe it was the episode before that. One of these episodes, you were commenting on the humor in season 2.
Yeah,
and that was something that never
occurred to you?
Occurred to me or stood out to me.
Yeah.
And even in the previous episodes, there were moments of humor, but for whatever reason, this shit just came off as a comedic beat, like a purposeful comedic beat almost.
Yeah.
And in this show, like with the nature of this show and how grim things can get, sometimes that maybe can seem tonally out of place or weird, but for me,
it works.
If I thought it worked, this shit was hilarious. But all of that was a coalescence of writing, acting, the performances of all the actors. I'm not even talking about just Arya and Jaqen. I'm talking about the guard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And editing.
I was going to say that too. The editing of it. I mean, it's perfect editing. The way all that stuff is timed. To get to that selling point at the end, that shot.
Yeah.
It sells it, and it was perfectly done.
So shout out to Dave Nutter, the director of this episode.
Oh, exactly.
That shit, that was brilliant.
Man, he's a great director because just talking through some of these scenes, the scene of King's Landing with the chaos. Theon, that sequence, sequence.
Arya being in such close quarters to Peter. And that's another thing about that scene. That was where a lot of the, actually all of the tension came from, is the fact that they were in such close quarters.
Exactly.
It wasn't like she was in the castle and he's in the courtyard. Oh shit, I see him in the courtyard.
And then she could easily hide somewhere.
Right.
It's
she's circling the table, the perimeter of the room when he's in there.
Exactly.
And so, I don't know.
It was a very, very well directed episode. Yeah. Robb Stark, I want to ask you about this because I think this plays into the Red Wedding and what we're going to see in season 3. So he's talking to Lady Talisa, who we know he's going to be romantically involved with. But I want to jump a little bit to when Caitlyn comes back to reunite with Robb, and she meets. She meets her. She meets Talisa, and she kind of does the motherly thing, is asking, "Okay, what's your intentions with my son?"
She was like, "Nice to meet you, my lady. I gotta go. Peace."
I know,
damn.
Right?
Okay.
So after Talisa leaves, there's a little conversation between Robb and Lady Stark.
Yeah.
And Lady Stark mentions something where she says, "Remember, you are promised to another."
Yeah.
Because there's a debt that still needs to be paid.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember that because
he made a deal with Walder Frey.
I remember that, but I didn't know that already happened because maybe we missed that scene. Or was that in season 1?
I think that was in season 1.
Okay. So maybe because I know that hasn't happened in season 2, but I do remember the deal that they made with the Freys. I think to like cross their cross their bridges or something like that.
Yes, that was in season 1.
Okay, yeah. Because they made a deal that I think Robb would have to marry one of his daughters, and then they would give them passage to cross their gates or cross their bridges, if I remember. If not, definitely let me know in the comments below.
No, that was the deal.
That was the deal.
Because he went back on that deal at the behest of his mom.
Yeah.
That is what ultimately led to.
Wow. Yeah. Okay. Because I remember that line. I was trying to just remember. I knew the Freys were involved, but I didn't know if it had already happened yet. Okay. So that was definitely a pivotal scene. A little bit of foreshadowing too, as well.
Yeah, because you got to think like. We're at episode. What episode is this? 6?
This is 6 right here.
All right, so we're at episode 6 in a 10 episode season, right?
Yeah.
Next season is the Red Wedding.
Yeah, at the end of season 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So that Walder Frey deal that happened in the first season.
Okay. Yeah, because.
Damn, man, that shit's coming, man. We only got like 4 episodes left for this one, and then.
And then we end season 3, and we'll get there. Stay tuned for that episode. You talked about comedy. Just we talked about this for a little bit. So Jon Snow and Ygritte, they gotta get some body heat, so they gotta sleep, so they find somewhere to go to sleep. And Ygritte,
one of them ain't trying to sleep.
Ygritte's fucking with Jon Snow a little bit.
A little bit.
Yo, she pulling one of them classic moves, man. Fucking with Jon Snow. I'm like, come on, man.
She already know this dude got the blue balls. One, because he's in the night watch. He can't have no play. Second, because it's freezing out there and his balls probably are actually blue. And she Even though because he got her bound, right? She was tied up. He tied her up and then laid on the floor.
Yeah.
She wiggling in her ass on him. And
I know. They spooning each other, trying to keep warm. She already said, like, look, she's a wildling, so she can fall asleep in the cold. Jon
she
Snow,
not falling asleep though. That's the whole problem. She not trying to fall asleep in the cold. John is like, man,
it's like keep playing. Maybe me break this oath.
We gonna get married off the show.
True. Rob receives the letter from Winterfell. This was a really, and this is also.
And Caitlyn was like, "I told you so."
Yeah, because we saw that earlier in this season, and I think this is setting some stuff up, a little bit of foreshadowing because we have Roose Bolton, who is fighting alongside Rob. But he tells him that, he has his bastard son, who he doesn't mention by name, but we'll see him later, season 5, when Ramsay really starts to become the true villain of that season, this show. But I assume he's referring to Ramsay when he says, like, look.
Because remember, he would never properly give Ramsay that title. Remember? I can't remember what that. I can't remember what it was. We'll get to it when we get to it. But if you remember in the comment section, please let us know.
Definitely.
But that title he wouldn't bestow upon him because he wasn't legit, like a legitimate.
Exactly. So Theon, like he mentions, Theon has a skeleton crew, and he was like, "Look, let me send my men up to Winterfell. We can go ahead and overthrow that." Because Rob is like, "Look, I gotta get back to Winterfell," but Bolton's telling him, like, "You're fighting a war. So we need you here. Your men need you here." Yeah. But Rickon and Bran are back in Winterfell. His brothers who are young, kind of helpless. He feels like, I need to get back there. And of course he feels betrayed by Theon, because he's the one that sent him away. And it goes back to what Caitlyn was telling him. You can't trust a Greyjoy. And it's interesting because Caitlyn holds a lot of resentment, and some is warranted when you talk about the Greyjoys. Yeah. But then also a lot of the resentment that she holds towards Jon Snow, which we'll see later on.
Her resentment towards Jon Snow is fucking heartbreaking.
It's very heartbreaking.
That's one of the most, not uncomfortable. And I don't want to say it's one of the aspects I like least about the show, because I don't mean it in that way, but it's one of the things that's hardest for me as someone because I love both of those characters.
They're great characters.
Both of those characters are not only great characters, but good people.
Good people, yeah.
It's almost like one of those situations where you hear about, whether it be your friends, coworker, someone on TV, where it was just a miscommunication. It was just two people couldn't meet on particular terms, and because of that, there was this unnecessary fallout. And there's never any reconciliation for that, and that's so heartbreaking to me. I mean, and there's no reconciliation on the show between Kate and Jon.
That's the thing, and
that's what's hard. When she dies in the Red Wedding, that was like one of the first things that hit me.
Yeah,
oh my God! That's why one of the reasons why it was so heartbreaking is because she's never gonna get to sit down with Jon and hear the truth.
Yeah, especially once we learn in like season 6 who his true lineage is, and it just goes. I mean, you talk about like Theon being between a rock and a hard place, and you go back once we learn who Jon really is, and talk about like Ned Stark and having to keep that from his wife, knowing the greater good for that secret that he has to keep, and where that has to put him first, with his relationship with his wife, making him think that he has a bastard son. It's, I don't know, I mean, we're getting ahead of ourselves, but I mean, I say all that just to say what Caitlyn, how she feels towards the Greyjoys. Like she just holds a lot of resentment towards some of these characters that are really close to her because of the relationship that they have to her and her family. Let's get to two other points. Osha, when she helps Bran escape. So she does a little bit of conniving. She does a little bit of game playing herself again, because Theon is a little bit like I said, Theon, he loves the ladies. He loves the ladies, and she knows that, and she plays to that. And she ultimately, and you were right, like she could have just took him out right there.
Man, missed opportunity.
Missed opportunity. But she had good intentions, and they were able to escape. So her, Hodor, Bran, and Recon were able to get out of there, which was good. But I like that whole sequence and how she was able to plan that to really get. And Theon is not. Like I said, once you get him out of his zone, it's easy to kind of manipulate and really,
So basically, once you put a naked woman in front of you, do whatever you want.
Pretty much. And then Daenerys get her dragon stolen. So yeah, she's talking to Zorro, and they go and they see that some of the guards of Karth have been killed. And this is, I believe, the House of the Undying. We're in the last episode when we run into those magicians.
The dude with the purple mouth.
The purple mouth and the bald head. So that's how the episode ends, with her dragons being stolen. And we see the one shot going to that tall tower, which I believe is the House of the Undying.
That's my, from my recollection, that's what I'm remembering. I'm calling.
Yeah.
I might be wrong. If I am, let me know in the comments.
Well, yeah, let us know and we'll correct it on the next episode. So we're going to go ahead and get into episode 7. Yep. But those are some of our points going from episode 6, The Old Gods and the New, directed by
David Nutter.
There you go. All right, guys, let us know what you thought of this episode. Remember, comment freely in the comments below. Remember to rate, like, subscribe, and share. And go ahead and check out our other dorks at MouthDork, at I feel like I'm doing my trailer reviews. At MouthDork.
You're just not used to me having me in your
I know, right here. It's crazy. At MouthDork, at WB Dash, at Sidewalk Siren. And this guy is the TheDiscoDork. Disco.
You fucking up all around. You want me to do the outro?
I can do it. This guy's the TheDiscoDork. I'm the TurtleDork. And with that, we're out.
Finally.